I don't believe it's too far-fetched to say that religious influences have contributed to the shaping of the world's morality and systems in one way or another. For instance, legal systems of countries such as England and the United States have historically been influenced by religion, more specifically Christianity, but also Judaism as the oldest Abrahamic religion and the Ten Commandments given through Moses. It is possible to see the influences and similarities in the laws given by Moses on how accusations and criminal cases were to be tried and the modern jury system. A few popular podcasters and commentators such as Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson have also hinted at the benefits of these traditions and systems to modern society. According to a 2023 Ipsos survey, of which I'll try to leave a link in the show description, 40% of people around the world believe in God as described in Holy Scriptures, while 20% believe in a higher spirit but not as described in Holy Scriptures. Another 21% believe in neither God nor any higher spirit, while 19% are not sure or will not say. So 60% of people believe in the existence of a higher power, while 40% either don't, won't say, or are just not sure where they stand on issues of a higher being. Still on the survey findings, here's a direct quote. On average, 54% agree that religious practices are an important factor in the moral life of citizens. 37% agree that people with religious faith are better citizens, and 20% say they lose respect for people when they find out they are not religious. So, most people, just a little over half, make a connection between religion and morality. I want to stick with this group of people as I read an encounter in the Bible from Acts 17:16 to 34, and then share my thoughts on it. Now, while Paul waited for them at Athens, his spirit was provoked within him as he saw the city full of idols. So he reasoned in the synagogue with the Jews and the devout persons, and in the marketplace every day with those who met him. Some of the Epicurean and Stoic philosophers also were conversing with him. Some said, "What does this babbler want to say?" Others said, "He seems to be advocating foreign deities because he preached Jesus and the resurrection." They took hold of him and brought him to the Areopagus, saying, "May we know what this new teaching is, which you are speaking about? For you bring certain strange things to our ears. We want to know, therefore, what these things mean." Now all the Athenians and the strangers living there spent their time in nothing else, but either to tell or to hear some new thing. Paul stood in the middle of the Areopagus and said, "You men of Athens, I perceive that you are very religious in all things. For as I passed along and observed the objects of your worship, I also found an altar with this inscription, 'To an unknown God.' What therefore you worship in ignorance, I announce to you. The God who made the world and all things in it, he being Lord of heaven and earth, doesn't dwell in temples made with hands. He isn't served by men's hands as though he needed anything, seeing he himself gives to all life and breath and all things. He made from one blood every nation of men to dwell on all the surface of the earth, having determined appointed seasons and the boundaries of their dwellings, that they should seek the Lord, if perhaps they might reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from each one of us. For in him we live, move, and have our being. As some of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring. Being then the offspring of God, we ought not to think that the divine nature is like gold, or silver, or stone engraved by art and design of man. The times of ignorance therefore God overlooked, but now he commands that all people everywhere should repent, because he has appointed a day in which he will judge the world in righteousness by the man whom he has ordained, of which he has given assurance to all men, in that he has raised him from the dead. Now when they heard of the resurrection of the dead, some mocked, but others said, "We want to hear you again concerning this." Thus Paul went out from among them, But certain men joined with him and believed, among whom also was Dionysius. Forgive me if I pronounce some of these names wrong. Among whom also was Dionysius the Areopagite, and a woman named Damaris, and others with them. In this fascinating story, the Apostle Paul, on one of his many missionary journeys, found himself in a city where the worship of idols was widespread. While the sight of these idols worried him, he did not dismiss the people, but engaged with them in constant discussion. Among the people he spoke with were the Epicurean and Stoic philosophers, of which some felt Paul's words were empty, perhaps in opposition to their Stoic beliefs of attaining personal freedom and happiness through the rational pursuit of virtues such as courage, self-control, justice, and practical wisdom. As far as they were concerned, humans were in control of their own destiny. They were close to the truth, yet quite far from walking in it. Side note, it's interesting that in this city they had a platform for the exchange of ideas, to which they invited Paul to speak further. Just like the many podcasts and YouTube channels we have today, where even opposing beliefs can be platformed in the search of hearing or sharing something new. Just another pointer to the fact that there really is nothing new under the sun. As far as humanity goes, methods may change, but there are predictable behaviors. So, getting back to the story, Paul gets this great opportunity to announce to the people that in their search for a higher power, they were not too far, but needed to make a degree of change from perceiving among their many deities an unknown God. Paul takes what they know and introduces them to God as being at the center of the universe and everything in it. He speaks of this universal God as the only one they need to worship, and not the many gods they submitted to. He said, "We live, move, and have our being in God. We exist in His world. He also wants to exist in ours, but only by invitation." Paul connects to the words of the poets by declaring that all humans are God's offspring. As the one who birthed all, he has no desire to be represented by idols made of elements or materials he created. Like any good father, he desires personal relationships with his children. Paul goes on to clarify that the desired way of connection to this universal and supreme God is acceptance of the resurrected Jesus as the only accepted gateway to the supreme God. While some mocked Paul over this, others were curious to know more. In the end, he wins some over. Adopting mere morality, stoicism, or other virtuous beliefs on their own is not enough. It is not enough for the created human to seek ascendance to glory or dissolution into void at the end of life through a fulfillment of virtues that exclude faith in God. It is also not enough to acknowledge the existence of God merely as a beneficent being whose blessings are to be desired and possessed, but whose ways and laws are optional. It is not enough to have an openness to adopting the benefits of religion with the potential to make the world or individual lives better without the desire to submit to this certain God. We cannot appreciate the blesser while maintaining an aversion to his principles. Here's the thing. There either is nothing after life, a void, nothing, or there is something, an afterlife, one that never ends, eternity. Are you willing to bet on there being nothing? What if you're wrong? Would it have been worth the bet to discover that you're on the wrong side of eternity after this life? Even if I and billions of other Christians throughout Earth's history are wrong, what would we have lost? Nothing. There would be nothing to have lost in the void. But we are Christians because we believe that the one in whom we put our faith, Jesus, is not wrong. We believe his testimony. We believe he is the truth. We believe the reports that he gave of the afterlife and the promises he made while he was on earth that he would go ahead of us and prepare a place for us in his Father's kingdom. I am convinced that there is another life out there, and it is through Jesus Christ that I will attain that life. I hope you will too. If all of this stirs up any fear in you because you don't believe in God or don't believe in Jesus, perhaps that's a good thing. The Bible does say that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Because it's the beginning of wisdom, it's just an entry point to wisdom. The state of fear is not where God calls us to remain. For many of us who have become Christians, we first did so because we heard stories of hell in comparison to heaven and surely did not want to end up in no lake of fire. But as we came to know God and drew near to Him, we found love, not fear. God is truly love. Fear may draw you to Him, but ultimately you'll find more love in Him than you could ever think possible. I pray that something in this episode stirs up a desire in you to truly know God, if you don't already do so. And if you do, stay on the right path and keep short accounts with God. May God keep you till the next one.